Dee,
Yes, ma'am.
how's your Pegram place?
Still under contract. We did the inspection. They don't want any repairs or anything. It's a construction loan, and I've never done a construction loan, but they had to get a contractor to come out. And then after they're done doing all of the things that I don't know what they all are, to decide what it's going to be like when they have finished constructing it, then they're going to send the appraiser. And after the appraiser, we will all live happily ever after. But I need a house in Kingston Springs like there's no tomorrow.
That's the next meeting.
Yeah. Screw about that sentence. So
put it in the chat.
Carry on.
All right, excellent. So that's an update for those of you who may have not been with us for our Pegram adventure. There was Dee has a listing that we looked at in Pricing Pros a month or so ago. So just to see where
we got a buyer through this.
And she got a buyer through this. It was Lon who had the connection.
Right.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So. All righty. Well, welcome to Pricing Pros. Good morning. My name is Rebecca Cooper, and we're still. This is a work in progress of Pricing Pros. We're going to try a little different approach today to Pricing Pros, hoping that everyone had a chance to at least look at the property that we're going to talk about today, 5101 Hilson, which is in 37211. For those of you who may not know yet, in the education email, the week of Pricing Pros, which is the first and third Thursdays of the month, there'll be a link to a Google Drive folder where you can find if there's any additional information that the listing agent has provided. I usually try to put the old MLS number in there if you want, but you don't have to. You don't have to go there ahead of time, but there may be some info there, like some pictures.
Is the listing
Hilson? What'd you say, Dee?
Is the agent here now?
No, Crystal's not. This is Crystal Morgan, and she's Crystal like the rock, and she's not on today, but I will be following up with her to give her some insight.
But the house is sold, you said, or is under contract?
No,
it's not even listed. This one's not even listed.
Okay.
Yet.
Okay.
This one's not even listed.
Because I couldn't find it. I was trying to research on it ahead of time.
This one's not even listed yet, and so in doing comps, it's as we all know, it's not a one and done kind of exercise. It's a process, and what do you guys think? I believe that running comps is important for preparation for a listing presentation. Now, you're not going to share that information, of course, because you need to see the property and get that info, but just getting yourself educated about what's around there and keeping that in mind, I think, is important. And so sometimes we're going to be looking for comps on a property that we haven't even gone on our listing presentation yet. So this will be more exercise.
Do we know the condition of this house? Has it been renovated at all since its last sale?
So we are going to pretend like we've just had our phone call interview discussion with the seller, and they've told us that there is some, there's been some updates. This is not a full renovation. There's been some updates along the way, but not a whole lot. So that's all we know for now. And so again, once you get there to do your listing presentation and you do your tour of the house and take your notes and stuff, then you would come back and update your comps, of course. All right. So let's get started on this adventure. So I read about how to, tips on sharing, screen sharing in Zoom. And when I do it, I don't see the options that they told me I should. So I'm just gonna give this a whirl here. Ted, if you can help me at some point,
Sure.
figure out how to share my desktop rather than just a screen, so so I can go back and forth. For some reason, I don't have that option. So
So when you're clicking share, it's giving you only individual windows. Is that correct?
that's correct. I don't have an option to share desktop.
And I don't know if anyone else on the call could help with that. I have noticed, I have not found out the reason why sometimes I do have that option and sometimes I don't. Does anyone know that by chance?
Ted, do you happen to have it right now at this very second? I wonder if it's when you're the
I do.
host. Maybe it's when you're
Oh,
the
but I'm not.
host.
Oh, that could be a thing. I'm not logged in as the host. I'm logged in as just me. And when I click screen share, I have all those options.
Mhm.
So yeah, I imagine you want to switch between windows, right?
Oh, okay.
Well, I'm gonna do it without doing that today because I tend to get lost trying to do that.
Yep.
But maybe for the next one, I'd like to.
Sounds good.
So let's jump into our to doing our comps now. Got my my notes here with the coffee spill on it that I did just a little while ago. All right, so this is 5101 Hilson, and we know an address. We can look up an old MLS, but we don't know a whole lot more about it. So we're in RealTrax now, and I'm going to give you the pro tip for today. I'm going to give on the front end to let you know that this is a new interface on RealTrax. They've made a lot of updates recently. They're still in beta, so there's more changes are going to come. But this is very important. The old interface, which we're going to use today, is going to go away. So starting the next Pricing Pro, we're going to start using exclusively in the new interface. And so for the next Pricing Pros, and for I would encourage everyone to start working in the new interface in RealTrax, because they have said they are going to flip the switch off on that interface that we've used for so long. All right. So, but we can talk more about that later. All right. So I'm going to go to do a search. I'm going to get the old interface up here. Okay. Now from the last Pricing Pros, Maria, I hope this tip from last time will help you. If you're having trouble finding a property because it's not currently listed, closed, one way you can do it just to zoom in on it is to type in an address in this search bar here. Oops.
And I'm just going to echo my
And see what
thanks.
we can find.
I'm near 20 years in this business, feel pretty astute at RealTrax, and I've never used this window that lets me put the address of the subject property that I'm looking at. And man, does it make.
Yeah, me either. Yeah.
But I've used it every time I've gone to RealTrax since Rebecca told me about this or shared this.
Well, I can't wait to share some of the stuff that I've already learned, and I have much to learn about the new RealTrax interface. It's even better. You're going to love it, promise.
Cool.
At first I thought, oh no, they're going to move my cheese again, but it's good. A little pain for a lot of gain. So it's identified my location. So for me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk you through my process. Now, keep in mind that my process, I already spent 2 hours on this earlier. So I'm going to be kind of rushing through it just to give you an idea of how I went about it. Not that to say that I'm a pricing pro, but just to show you my logic, and then is sort of what I've come up with. And then I'd like to get your input on things that you might have done differently, changes, different approaches, things I hadn't thought about.
Just one question. So you type the address. So you type the address on.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I see. Okay.
Yep. Right here. And then hit the magnifying glass and put it here. So
search.
what I'm going to do next is I'm going to, and this is again, this is a terrible expression. It just occurred to me, but more than one way to skin a cat. That's a terrible expression. But anyway, there's a lot of different ways you can approach this. Please don't report me to the ASPCA. I'm going to start with a draw tool, simple draw tool. All right. And I'm just going to go to the center, which, the Hilson Drive is right there. And I'm going to go out 1 mile. right? Again, we're trying to think kind of like an appraiser. An appraiser would go out about a mile to look for comps, all right? And now I'm going to, all right, and I like that. This looks good. And I'll tell you why. So we've got, we're looking for, boundaries. We generally don't want to cross over an interstate or something like that. So this is a nice bounded thing. We've got Edmondson Pike here and Nolansville Road here. So that I like the way that area looks. I like the good stuff. So your default in real tracks is under contract showing. For my first search under contract not, and I'm going to do this within the last 6 months. All right. So now I could go ahead and run that right now and just see what it looks like before I start narrowing in with some more criteria, right? So we're taking all this information and we're dumping it in the funnel. Everybody remembered Bobby's funnel, where you put all the properties in and then you start narrowing it down. Right? That's what we're doing by adding our maps or criteria, that sort of thing. We're trying to narrow down to zero in on the internet connection is unstable. I'm going to go on and add a few more criteria. I do want to look in Davidson County. We're getting close to Williamson County here, but we want to make sure, if you mention Brentwood or something like that in your listing, you got to make sure this is Davidson County. It's not Williamson. All right. So we want to be Davidson County. Hey, we've talked about this a lot on other pricing pros. I do want to take off condominiums. I don't really want any of these other things other than site built, but because of issues with how listing agents sometimes identify them, I am going to leave site built, 0 lot line, HP detached for now. May take it out later. All right. And then,
if at any point you have questions, I know Rebecca's on a hotspot, so her signal may be a little spotty, and you're hearing her. So if you miss anything or you have questions, do not hesitate to just raise your hand. I'll be looking for the screener or put something in the chat so that we don't want to. This is a perfect example of the way she's going through this, so I don't want you to miss anything.
all right. So next I am going to put a few more criteria. Now, when I'm doing this myself the first time, sometimes I'll just add one criteria at a time. One criterion at a time, then I'll run the search and see what I get, and then I'll add another, and again narrowing in, zeroing in. I may not throw all of them in at the same time, but again, for the sake of my poor little hotspot here, I am just going to go on and put all of my criteria in at one. All right, so the year built, this was built in 1961, and generally this is the touchy-feely part. I know that I don't want anything that's too new. Like, I don't want something that was built in the 2000s, because I know this area I know there's plenty of stuff around here that's going to be within 30 years on either side of this. So I'm going to go with so again, built in 1961. I put about 30 years on each side. So I don't want anything older than built in 1930 and nothing newer than built in 1990. And let's see, this is 3 beds, 1 full bath, 1.5 bath, but I'm not going to limit it based on that. I don't know of any, if I don't get enough comps once I run this, I may look back at that, but I don't think we're going to see a lot of 6-bedroom homes in this area. And I don't think we're going to see a lot of 2-1s like we do in East Nashville. But again, this is just my first run at it. I can always refine my criteria later. All right, now I am going to do something with the square footage. Per that, I did check the tax record to start with, just to confirm information that was listed in the previous MLS listing. And this shows 1,713 square feet. So I'm going to put a minimum square footage of 1,400 and a maximum of, what am I doing? 2,100. All right, and again, this is just I'm just trying to limit it a little bit. I don't want to limit it too much to start with. Let's see what we get, look at the results, and then refine. All right. Don't have to get this
Auctions.
right the first time. What's that?
Auctions, are you including auctions?
Oh, I did. It's automatically checked, include auctions. But you can uncheck that if you want. That's a good point, Maria, you know. But
Yeah.
I am curious again, first time I'm looking in this area, I'm pretending like I'm preparing for my listing presentation. I want to see what's going on around here before I go over there. So I'm going to leave that checked, but good point, Maria. But I'm going to run it. Let's see what I got. All right. Oh, I got 46. Aha. All right. Looking pretty good. Now, for me, again, this is my process. The next thing I do is I go to the map because I started with the map. I want to go and look at the map. Hopefully this is going to change. Oh, good. Okay, great. All right. So we see we kind of got a nice cluster here. Here is the subject property, Hilson. All right. So this is the one that we're talking about listing. And then you've got kind of a cluster here and a cluster up here. Now, there are a couple of different approaches. Because I'm just now trying to get a lay of the land, I would leave all of those in there. Now, once I'm narrowing in and I've had my tour of the house and I've done my listing presentation and I've got the listing agreement, I myself will likely choose to narrow that 1 mile radius down and probably focus in on this area right around here. This is Huntington Park, I think is the name of the subdivision. And so I can this comps to something that you know, a little tighter cluster around that.
If this was CNN, we would have to break our feed with her. We're gonna have to come back to you, Rebecca, when you get your.
I'm gonna look at.
Rebecca, you can't hear what we're hearing, but you're breaking up pretty good. It's like a bad CNN feed, and you're on the Capitol steps or something. They don't have a lot of tolerance. Yesterday, if any of you watched the news for bad feed. You still there, Rebecca?
What if I just talk very slowly?
That seems to work well.
Okay, I will slow down my speaking. All right, so I got 46.
You could try to stop your video as well. That would help your bandwidth, probably.
All right, let me try that. How? Stop video.
It could.
Okay.
It could help.
I have stopped my video.
Seems good. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So then I'm going to glance through the list and just get an idea. All right. Okay. I'm just getting a lay of the land. Am I cutting out now? Ted, your smile is killing me. I can't tell what it means.
I'm sorry.
You sound fine. You sound fine.
To be better. I'm smirking because I'm like hopeful that maybe something I'm suggesting is working, and I got to celebrate small wins this year. So that's what life's about this year. So no,
tiny win.
Nope, seems
all
good.
right. So next, I'm going to go and look at the. I'm gonna glance.
You're going again.
Oh,
no. And what I'm looking for, Ted, don't make your faces, man.
I'm sorry, it's happening again. Just keep
so
going.
This is my process.
Oh no, the faces aren't your process. The faces is the breaking up again, not your process. No, now I did it.
I'm looking for things like only sold as for things that, you know, I want residential site built I don't want any.
You're watching CNN. We'll come back to you.
We'll come back to you, Rebecca, when we get our signal reestablished.
All right. What I'm going to do is just go on and run the CMA and then maybe turn it over to the group to talk about the process.
Okay.
All right.
This will be Rebecca's
right.
last installment on a hotspot, so that's the only reason we're experiencing this, y'all.
Okay. So
Did we lose you
I'm
completely?
guessing you
Or not?
cannot hear me now.
We can hear you now. Yep.
All right.
You're coming and going pretty heavy. We can't hear. We heard you say we can't hear you, but other than that, we haven't heard much, Rebecca.
All right.
We heard all right.
Ted, why don't you take over and talk about the process I've shown so far?
Okay. All right. Can you all see my screen
Yes.
and hear me okay?
Yes.
So I'm going to pick up kind of where Rebecca is. I'm going to show a little distinction that I have done in my search, but it's very similar as far as like I put the address in, there's the subject. Now I know this area, so that is the one element that can be difficult if you're comping somewhere for the first time, is using the draw search with the mile. This thankfully works for this example. But if this subject property happened to be down here and I moved my circle right here, let's say the house was right here. Can you all see my cursor? This creates several problems. And I want to use this opportunity before we did that to share why. Well, let's say the house is in the middle of this circle. Several things are going on here. One, a big one that you may not recognize, but this Old Hickory Boulevard right here, Williamson County is south of this. So if we didn't select the county, it would be including homes that were in Williamson County. Okay. The
Ted,
second, yeah.
would you please turn on the layer for county?
Yes.
No,
well,
no, no. No, on your screen.
Hold please,
Yeah.
I got it. All right, so you can see the red line here is Williamson County. So in this case, it wasn't close enough, but there you will do homes where you're going to get somewhere here, and that may be a problem. In fact, there's a very prevalent, it's very prevalent in the community of Lenox Village, and there's another one down in Nolansville where half of the community, Bent Creek, some of the homes are in Williamson County and some are in Davidson. And it makes two big reasons. One, the prices are dramatically different because of the counties, which some would describe as the schools. So the taxes are different. They're lower in Williamson County than Davidson, and the prices are higher in Williamson County in that community. But nonetheless, you may have seen a shape that I drew. Always when I get my subject, I'm looking at a couple of things here. Now, I just happen to know, and this gets challenging when you're comping a new area. Let me go ahead and delete this real quick. But I know that different sides of Edmondson Pike bring different values. This side of Edmondson Pike would be called Creve Hall. This side would not. So I'm going to select this draw tool. And I also know that going north of Harding Road is a different animal as well. So I'm going to take my tool here and I'm going to bring myself to try and stay within this. Make sense? Now you'll see in that circle model as Rebecca gave, it was really close at a mile. So, but it could have crossed over Edmondson Pike. And that's why Rebecca's example, when as soon as you draw your map and you put in some criteria, the best thing to do as you hit the search button and it pulls up the list is, it'll normally show this, is go back to the map and see, oh, okay, well, did it pull any that were on the other side because I used the circle function or something of that nature? Are there any questions about how I drew this or why I chose this? Okay. Rebecca put in a year build criteria, which is obviously an option in this one. I typically won't start with that unless I know an area, like I know all the homes in this area are typically of similar size. So I start with square footage range. So, so this home, as Rebecca mentioned, I'm looking at my notes here, it was, I've got it on a different screen that I toggle back and forth between and looking at the other, at the previous MLS, that it was 1,700 and change. So I did 1,400 to 2,100. I also, it's a 3-bed, 1.5 bath. So the only comps that I want to work with have a max of a 1 bath. And I'll show you why, because I first did a 2-bath max. Okay, because bathrooms tend to have a big influence on valuation. A home with a 1 bath versus 2 bath, that second bath brings in an entirely different audience of buyer, of somebody that doesn't want to add a second bath. You know, that somebody buying a 1-bath house, they literally can, it's a price consideration. And if we were to go to the comps based on this, minimum 3 bedrooms, because a 3-bed brings a lot more than a 2-bedroom. And a 2-bath brings a lot more than a 1-bath. So just to show the example, you'll see this is what I've come up with. And if I go to the list, when I look at my list, I immediately look at the baths. Do I have enough 1-baths in here to support enough comps? And it looks like I do. And so immediately I'll just go, okay, let me just see what restricting to 1 bath gives me. And in this example, it's 10 homes. For this search for me preliminarily, this is enough because I can see homes that are of similar age, size, and no more than 1 bath and kind of give me, now I'm looking at, oh, wow, there's a big range here. I mean, 396 down to 210. That's a pretty big range. So having not ever been to the home, there's another thing that I need to keep in mind. And I go back to my map and I zoom in on my subject. And I know this because I see this big white line running right by my star. And what that tells me is there's possibly a major road. I'm either on a major road or I am near one. And yes, I am. I am on a corner, which to some is appealing in certain scenarios. In this one, I would say it is not, because I'm across from a school, I believe. And I get a lot more exposure being on this corner. And it's also, let me click off my map here so it's not blue, if I can. I know this street is a double yellow line. Now, this may seem like I'm getting in the weeds, but to me, these are very important considerations in comping purposes, right? A double yellow line means it's a busier street, all right? So that's going to bring different value. Now, how much, we don't know, but that's just something I need to keep in mind when I go over to my list and go, okay, already, what first thing I need to figure out is, wow, I've got comps in here from 200,000 to 405,000. So I start clicking on, I sometimes start at the bottom at the top and I click on it, and I'll click on it, I'll read comps immediately. For comp purposes only, well cared for. This likely, I'll sometimes see the agent. Are there any other notes? I'll click on a photo. Typically there's only one or no photo if somebody put in for comps. It likely is a tear down or a complete cut. So what I'll do immediately is I'll click all of my listings and I'll deselect that one. So that way when I'm narrowing. Now I also did in my status, I picked site built only because I don't want to compete. I know it's a single family home. And in this neighborhood, HPRs, I don't want to even look at that data if I don't need it. So I kind of start and try to go smaller. And then if I need more data, open up my criteria. I try to keep my criteria as close to my subject property as possible within reason and consideration of what an appraiser and a buyer might be evaluating. Any questions on that? How did you switch your map to show the real graphic like that? Okay, you mean it's over in the top right corner, world navigation view. Is that what you meant, Sarah? Yeah. And I don't use it too much in here. A lot of times what I'll do when I'm working with a property is I will take the subject property and I will do a Google map of it because I've never been there and I need to know some things about it. So I will do a street view. This is always how I start comps truly. I start here and I go, oh, okay, oh, wow. All right, I'm on a corner. Looks pretty, set back from the road pretty good. Are there any major power lines going around here? Let me walk around the corner and see what it looks like. This is the beauty we have with these tools now. And I go, all right, okay, double yellow line. Maybe you've never been to the street before, and that's okay. But you know, a double yellow line like means something. And oh, okay, I'm across because I saw that on the, that's not a school, that's an apartment community. Now, I don't care how nice the apartments are, any home near apartments tends to, it could be, and tends to be influenced on the pricing. Okay? The nicest of ones in Cool Springs. And nobody at the Governor's Club wants the apartments in their backyard. So they're just considerations, right, when it comes to the comps. All right, so I go back to my list, and I apologize. I really wish Rebecca's connection was stronger because I even promised her at the beginning, I'm like, I'm going to do my best to shut up and say nothing and let you run this show. And look how that worked out for me. I'm sorry, Rebecca. I know you're still there, are you?
Yes.
So this is, so I start going through my list here and I'm looking at, okay, I didn't have pictures of the subject property, but this looks, you know, cute and country, and oh wow, they've got granite countertops, and they've got a pretty backyard and asymmetrical fireplace, and oh, we've got some barn wood. That's fancy. Okay, good talk. Seller giving $8,400 credit. I look at, you know, it sold for, listed at $285, sold for $259, on the market 98 days. All right, that could be a comp. I go to the next one, and I use these little arrows here to start arrowing through so I can just quickly assess, ooh, this one's got gray and white. Everybody loves that these days. So this one's had a mild renovation, or maybe more renovated than the last one. Again, I go to the bottom real quick. I look at listed at 274.9. It sold for 275, was on the market in 10 days. So somebody paid obviously list price, probably went multiple offers. So that helps me understand, yes, hardwood's fancy. So there's that one. I'm gonna leave that in my pool. Click through this, ooh, Yahtzee. All right, this one needs some help. And I've on all 6 months, again, I just go down, 275, closed for 271, one under contract and very quickly. So please use caution, blah, blah, blah. The fridge doesn't renew. This would not be a winner for my clients, but all right, now we get into 2 stories and other things. So that's kind of how I'm building the case. And then, you know, I'm at number 8 of 10. I may go all the way to the bottom and go, okay, let's look at this 395, 396 job, because what happened here? And immediately, no need to go further. You can start to look. Zoning allows 1 to 2 single family units. There's your answer. Immediately, I'll deselect this listing because this is not a comp. Do you see how quick we could just eliminate this? Because I look at this photo and go, does this look like 398,000? No. So then immediately my eyes just go to read the remarks. Perfect lot with possibilities for future development. And sure enough, Pam Ford was double-ended the deal. She sold both sides. And if you wanted to learn more about this, you can always, you know, click on their data. And I use opportunities as I'm doing comps to learn of like, what documentation should she include? Okay, maybe I want to click on the tax record here and see, what does a 2 zoning look like? Is it a corner lot? Could we be a 2 zone? And when I go into the tax map, one of the first things I do is I click View Larger Map. because then it shows me where it is. And I'm like, okay, well, compared to me, where am I? I know I was on, Hinson. I'm over here on this corner. So it's not too far. It's a corner. It's not on a major street. But that house, again, just taking that opportunity to look at how does this one qualify for 2-family? And you can scroll down, you'll see the zoning code right here says R10. R10 means if you have over a 10,000 square foot lot, which this one clearly does, it's 40,000 square feet, that you have the possibility, it's not guaranteed, but the likely possibility you could put 2 homes on one lot. The distinction would be if that says RS10. The S would designate, even though you have 10,000 square feet, the S would mean it only allows 1 single family home. This isn't a hard and fast rule, but it is common that it is that way. In fact, in the large review, the reason I like the large review mode is I can click right over here on this house. And when I see OIC, and I know Rebecca's like, you're getting off track here, Ted, but this is how I teach myself about like using these things. When you see OIC, that means there is an HPR there. There is 2 homes on one lot. Now you can see that because of those 2 like green lines, but an OIC tells you that there is a 3rd recorded deed on that property, and that is for the land. When you have an HPR, people have taken one lot, they've put 2 homes on it, and then the 3rd parcel is the land that is common area.
What does OIC stand for, Ted?
I have no idea. Could somebody help me out? I'd like to phone a friend. Where's Loy when you need him? I don't know what it stands for, but I know that it is, I always see that, OIC. And then sometimes, of course, you could dig further to get into the deed for that specific property. Who owns the land then? Both owners do. It is common space that is owned in collaboration, similar to an association of condos where they own the land. Make sense? All right, so let's get back to our business at hand here. And that is, we know this one is not a comp. So I've deselected that. I go back to my lists. I also saw this $405,000 guy right here. And okay, well, it looks pretty. And then I see 2020. Again, this is just me typically working in my speed fashion. And I'll scroll down and look. Okay, they listed on 1/5. We found 2 days. They listed at 405. That breaks every rule in my book. You should never list something 5,000 over a major price category, because most people's budget isn't 405 or 410. It's 400, 425, 450. So you're missing a lot of people by pricing something at 405 versus pricing at 400. But nonetheless, let's look at this $405,000 jobby. And I'll give you some pro tips as well. If you're going to sell a $400,000 house, I don't care if you're going to sell a $300,000, don't make your first 6 photos the exterior, because other websites like Zillow and certain ones, they will grab they will only show the first 5 photos. So guess what you're showing the world? This is it. And those people on those sites can think, well, why didn't they show the interior? So I have started mixing up my first 5 photos as a sampling of the entire house rather than a logical walkthrough of the home, which is what I used to do. Can you tell right off the bat, the agent really sprung for professional photos? Not. And took them themselves. Looks like we got lots of different lighting. This is fancy. We got a gazebo with a fan. Y'all can hear my sarcasm, I get it. Never put your couch up against the wall. Good talk, Ted. All right, so renovated kitchen, backsplash tile that we've all seen a million times. I mean, pretty painted paneling. It's what it is, right? It's a cute little house. This is always, if you ever see this means a garage renovation. In Creve Hall area, most of the time, these are rear load single bay garages that most people put tile down. You can always see, because you can see the step down right here into the kitchen. This was a garage, okay? Is that footage as good as the footage in the home? Typically not, because it feels like you're in a converted garage, because you are, but it's good it's a good use of money to convert because you're going to get more price per foot for heated and cooled square footage than you will for a garage. And that's part of why they're trying to justify the price of their home, because they've got 1,408 square feet. And 20 by 13 is that rec room, which was the former garage. So that's a big part of what the house became. Personally, I think they're off their rocker at $288 a square foot. And I go back to my list. I will narrow, meaning show checked. I got rid of the two that automatically eliminated. And then I'll just run a quick CMA on what I do have left. And I start looking at averages, right? I mean, you can see here medians and averages of where we are. Without seeing the property myself, it's hard for me to really value, but I feel pretty confident that, you know, we're probably not a $405,000 house. I think this person is, I mean, it's $288 a square foot, friends. There's been nothing. And why is that? Watch me change this criteria real quick, and this doesn't become such a bizarre scenario. What's one thing that I'll change where that 405 is probably not that crazy? Who wants to guess?
Lot size.
That possibly, but the bath.
Boundaries.
Having that 2 baths, watch how this probably makes that come into reality. So I'm going to go ahead, actually, I'm just going to put the minimum at 2, and I'm just doing this for education purposes. Let's just look at the 2 baths. Now that property won't be in it, but let's look at price per foot on 2 baths with all the same criteria, okay? We're getting better. I've got a 253. I got a
And I bet too, there, a lot of people search for Creve Hall Elementary.
Right.
And it pulls over the boundaries like you talked about.
Right. And school zones is another thing. I don't, you know, I'm not as keen on the school zones, and I don't typically search by that, but it is definitely something to be mindful in many, many areas that will have significant influence on the pricing. But for this exercise, I've gone back to those 1 baths. I've gotten rid of that low one and that high one. Gone to my checked houses here. Yeah, see, I did that backwards. You do that, you just research, hit the search again, select all, deselect what you don't want. There we go.
Ed, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I just want to add something real quick.
Yeah, please.
To remember to save your search if you want to keep it and not have to redo it time and time again. I hate it when I forget to save it and I've got to go through all this again.
Yes.
And I
And
have
some tips on.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
And if I'd like to I have something I learned on the CMA that I'd like to show, if you wouldn't mind going to the CMA whenever you have a second.
Yes, I will. And I'll show you my tip on saving searches. If there are things that I use a lot, this goes for folder numbering as well. I always might put a 1 or an underscore in front of it. And that way, I'm going to hit save. If you see my other saved searches, see the ones that have a 1 on front of it, and I put that underscore, and it was the first one in my list. So that's the trick. If you have something that you use a lot that you want to show up at the top of an alphabetical list, put an underscore or 1 in front of it, versus just otherwise it's going to do it alphabetically. And you can see some of the searches that I keep in here: Sylvan Heights, Sylvan Map, no heights, Sylvan Small, Sylvan Summit HPRs, and then condos are separate. Those are old searches. But let's go back to our search. Go ahead, Rebecca.
If we could look at your CMA.
Yep.
All right, when I do CMAs and I'll print them out and then I've been handwriting in my subject property information. And for those
Okay.
of you who know a better way to do it, I just learned it. And I really like this. So we just need to
Pretty
look
cool.
actually at your CMA.
Okay, sorry, let me reduce mine, show my check. CMA. This is what you want, correct?
All right, so there's your CMA. If you would, go to the settings cog.
Top right, it's the gear for everyone.
Yes, and you have to manually put this in right now, but if you would put in address 5101 Hilson Drive. And go down to subdivision, Huntington Park, beds 2, or I'm sorry, 1 slash, please, if you would, 1/1, because that's how it looks on the other. Square feet, 1713. Year built, 1961. Acres, 0.43.
0.4 what?
3. And save. Now look in each section at the top bolded. I like seeing that.
Big time. It's very helpful when you're demonstrating this to your buyers so that they can keep referencing this. Like, yes, you have a bigger lot. Problem is, people don't care about that as much in that neighborhood as they do bed and bath count. And you're on a corner lot. Corner lots are always going to have bigger lots, but the lot is not usable. Corner lots honestly are rated because it's much more difficult to fence it in. As far as cost, there's much more fencing. You get a smaller yard. You're paying for all that front yard that is not as usable for many people that might be buying this home as their first time, or they're having a new baby or something of that nature. But it is important to remind them they need to see this glaring reality. And that is, you got 2 beds. And I think I put 3 as a minimum. I meant to really put 3 as a maximum. The 1 bath is really what's most important. But look at the difference that made. So what would I tell that seller? You need to convert that rec room into a bedroom. And we need to market this thing as a 3-bed, 1.5 bath, because you're going to get slaughtered, in my opinion, because of that bath problem.
So our subject property is a 3-bed.
Good talk. All right. So maybe you don't need to restrict that. Maybe that's why I put that as a minimum, because yes, if it was a 2-bed, which I've been in those scenarios many times. Now you could keep that 2 baths in here. It's just a lot more data. And this may not seem like a lot of comps. In certain scenarios, it may not be enough, but there's enough, to me, there's enough diversity of data here to get me in the ballpark of what I need to know to go on my listing presentation. Now I may print myself a second set with the 2 baths, and I would run it simply as a 2-bath so I can look at the data set of just 2 baths versus just 1 baths. Because it's very, very different. That second bath, and especially even that half bath carries a lot of value because at least people aren't having to use the owner's suite bath. So that's something to be mindful when, looking through comps that way. I also want to add to Rebecca's point, one other thing when showing that in that CMA, when adding in that information, let me see if it saved it. Perfect. So let's go ahead and put a suggested list price here. Do I hear $1? Who's got a number? Give me a number to put in here. Anybody have a suggested list price?
380,
What?
80.
380. Okay. So let's go ahead and put 380 in there. The reason I like this is because it calculates that price per foot. So then you can really see, and where do we go when we do comps? Pretty much really quickly straight to the bottom. Because I'm not interested in what the market's asking. I'm not interested in what the market is under contract, because that doesn't tell me what they sold for. It's only the close data that shows me what people really opened their wallet to pay for homes. And I go 222. Okay, there's only one other house that sold for more than that per foot in the last 6 months. And it was only a 1 bath. It wasn't a 1.5. So then I will, a lot of times I'll click on this MLS number right there. And I'm going to go look at it and go, okay, how is this guy better? What's going on in this house? Well, there's the answer. That's all I need to see, really. I mean, somebody got staging, professional photography, they got sunlight, and they've read a decorating catalog in the last 3 years. It's beautiful. It's got a galley kitchen, but they put this pattern tile. Everybody's into that. There's the garage conversion we all talked about. You can see it a mile away in Creve Hall. Attic stairs, pull down attic stairs. Looks like a popcorn ceiling still. Those aren't fancy, but you can overcome a popcorn ceiling with everything else going on here in a moment. And this is guaranteed, this is staged. Best money they ever spent. I always tell a seller, the money you'll spend on staging is always less than what your first price reduction will be. Money spent on staging is less than what your first price reduction will be. And that's the truth. Because you're going to have to drop this house more than $5,000 to make people want it. Whereas that staging and some cafe lights, and you just hired a stager. You make that say that they probably paid $3,000 for this staging. Expensive out of pocket. That's the difference. It's out of pocket. But nonetheless, that's my litmus here real quick of how would we compare? Anybody else have any guesses on price? I see a 324.9. I was afraid I lost everything, just clicking back. That's a 324 there. This isn't the one. Can anyone hear me? This thing on?
I can.
Okay. I lost the one that had the number on it. So enter all that data back in there. I'm not sure if that's savable, but
You can.
okay. How would you do that? Because that's important.
Down at the bottom where it says save.
Okay.
But when you close it, it goes away. It's not going to save it. If you run another CMA, you would have to print it or save it.
I got you. So I was a little messy when putting that data in there, and I didn't put the address back in for expediting this, but at least it's showing me really quickly the calculation on a price per foot. And at this new one, you can see that it puts us at $190 a foot. Now, I'm really cautious to price things by the foot. I tell sellers that's like pricing a car by the pound. It's a very dangerous and poor way to value properties. It just is. If this house has the same square footage and one has gold toilets and the other doesn't, well, is the gold toilet worth more? Well, it depends, right? Maybe gold toilets aren't in, or they are, or white paint or painted brick is in and out. So all those things have influence. It's not just how many beds and baths and how big is the lot. And, we're selling the Four Seasons downtown for $2,000 a square foot. No land. So all footage isn't created equal. Sylvia mentioned the difference in pricing at 324.9 versus 325. I think I've shared this with many of you before, but does anybody want to share why they might choose to price something at 324.9 versus 325? Even if you don't know, feel free to guess. D says psychological. That's one, that could be one reason. Who else? Let's hear somebody else's voice besides mine.
Catching different search parameters in people's MLS searches.
Tell me about that.
I wouldn't think that that would typically happen with 324.9 to 325. I would think it would be more so with like coming up to 400 instead of, but people might not be including up to that price point and they'd be missing out on your property. Like, or if it was on the end of it and someone was looking, 400 or 325 up to 375, they would know if it was at 324. That's what it was. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah, that's perfect, Sarah. Did you learn that in Jumpstart?
Probably.
Okay. Yes, that's exactly why, is that psychologically we want to be under the competing with, if there was other homes that priced at 325, that we look more attractive at being at 324.9. Or we're picking up on the retail psychological pricing models. But the truth is I think it's more important that we think about the reach rather than the psychology, because ultimately that's what people are working within, their budget, and then what they are psychologically putting into, or they're choosing to put into these database searches. Because it's not like 85% of buyers are doing their own searches online. And so if they put in 325, let's say they wanted to buy a house at 300 to 350, and you're priced at 299.9, you got missed. You will not show up on a 300 to 350 search priced at 299.9. If you're priced at 300 on the nose, you would have been in somebody's search up to 300 and the one that was 300 to 350. Now, the truth is, if somebody's budget's 300 to 350, I can't even tell you if I've ever had somebody buy the 300, because clearly things at 350 are going to look a lot nicer, but there is something to that of being priced on the nose and just considering the price category searches. So that's a very good point. Sylvia, thank you for mentioning that in the chat and bringing that up. What else am I missing here? Other guesses or thoughts on pricing questions? We're at 10:02. I want to be mindful of time. Rebecca, what am I missing here?
Oh, I thank you so much. I think that was excellent. And I really appreciate you sharing your expertise today. Real quick, since it has been an hour, and I don't want to cut off anyone if you have any questions, but I do just want to show just one little thing, the pro tip for today, and it's about the new RealTrax interface that I would challenge everyone to start working with. And on next week's Pricing Pros, we're going to go through the new interface. So if you would click on the RealTrax logo in the upper left. So this is where you're going to start when you open RealTrax. And if anyone doesn't know, it's now realtrax.com. They've migrated from realtrax.net. So don't go there, Ted. Don't do it. Just type in that quick search box right there, 5101 Hilson. Now, see, it pops up, so select. And this is what you're going to see to start with. Okay, so this would solve the issue, Maria, of if you are having trouble finding the property because it's not listed. So very quickly, Yep. And there are a couple different things how you can move
That's
into
great.
your search from here, but you get more information, more bang for your buck with fewer keystrokes by starting here. Now,
This is
the next,
fantastic. I haven't done this yet. I thought I had been by doing the beta right
Yes.
there, but this is great because immediately you see that corner lot and I can go here and go right to the previously closed listing.
Yeah.
Perfect.
so it
It's
really is an improvement. It just takes a little retraining, of course, because we're used to using the interface that Ted showed us and that I was using today. But again, that interface is going away 3 to 6 months from now. So it's in all of our best interest to go on and start working in the new. Again, it is in beta. There are a few things that haven't been put in here yet. It's not perfect. So for a while, we may need to switch back to the old one. But fear not. They've really put a lot of thought into the changes, and I see a lot of positive stuff in it. So start using it, and next Pricing Pros, I'll start with that, and I'll be on a high-speed internet connection. Woot woot.
Well, this is super helpful, and just seeing those photos helps give me and obviously everyone more context. The fact they've opened up the house, this wall was probably not open when it was built, so that would improve its value as far as being more marketable and competitive. Obviously, the bedrooms are overstuffed. If I walk through this home with a seller, I'd say, okay, I need you to thin these bookshelves by 70%. That's the language that I use, and they seem to get that. And I just explained, look, it's not if, it's when you're moving. Our job is to help eliminate anything that's distracting. So anything too cool, unique, or not in trend will impact people's perception of your value. So if you have a garage, or if in this case, you've turned it into this lovely rec room, then maybe rent a pod. Because, but if you had a garage, they're very forgiving. So pack up, let's stuff it to the gills. Nobody cares as much of what the garage looks like as they do what your closets are overstuffed. So that would be my recommendation. But that helps give me some context of looking at this first, which you would always want to do before you go look at your comps, because you got to know, what does this thing possibly look like? Like aesthetically, it may look very different than what that is, but at least I know from a floor plan perspective, that wall has been opened up and it flows pretty nicely.
And Ted, if I could just point out this is a choose your own adventure. I'd like to show you 2 choices you could make now from this point.
Please.
Upper right, where it says CRS data, clicky, open CRS tax.
Nice.
All right.
Good.
So if you want to start there with some stuff, get more information. And then the second option, if we could go back to Real Tracks. Is browse map in the upper left. And it's going to show you map. So you can start, you can do near me. And it's going to show some things. That's one way you can just get a glimpse, or go to the upper left refined search.
So one thing that's a little confusing to me here, this dot that's in the center, that is not my subject property, correct? That is.
You're
That's
correct.
correct.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. It's just,
Mhm.
oh, that's near me, like where I physically am. This is my home. Sorry, friends. What is this address?
Sorry, I didn't specify that it took you away from your subject property. I just meant if you want to look around you, if you're in the field, for example. If you
Sure.
would go back to that map view.
Try to. I'll use my back button, but be cautious in Real Track. Sometimes that will not work in the same functionality, but it looks like it is in this.
Now go to
Browse map.
Browse Map. And then do Refine Search instead of Near Me,
Okay.
upper left. Here's where we can start putting in our criteria. It's just a
Okay.
different interface. You can select your property types, class. The default listing status, sorry,
No.
is
This is very important.
active.
Go ahead.
That's the default, but yes, Mandy, this is the new interface. So you can select, and for closed, be sure to select 3 months, 6 months, or your start date.
And be
Over
sure
here,
to always include. Be sure to always include when running comps under contract not showing. That did not default come up, and I
Right.
would be very certain to include that if, in fact, you should always be looking at anything under contract. So I don't normally put a date on those because most people don't have things sitting under contract longer than 3 to 6 months. So I normally just go straight to close and click 6 or 3. This is great.
Okay, so, and again, other ways you can put criteria in there on the left. So this is the new interface. Not everything is in there yet, so, you know, it's not finalized yet, but do go ahead and start using this interface to get yourself familiar with it. And if you sign up for RealTrax classes, it's not a guarantee that the instructor will show the new interface yet. But Bobby Jo Nugent, if you take a class with Bobby Jo Nugent, she has committed to using this new interface to help people get familiar with it. I just took her basic RealTrax on Monday, basic, you know, very beginning. I learned a ton. All right, so it's good stuff.
Yeah, when I went to do that in the refined search area, it made me pick a location. I don't see where you can draw on this yet. Am I missing something there, Rebecca?
You're not missing it, but I don't know where it is. I know you can, but I haven't learned that yet. I'm sorry.
All good.
I will find that answer for you for next Pricing Pros.
Gotcha. Well, I appreciate just this initial exposure to it because I like a lot of what's going on in there. So flood zones is something to be mindful of too, as well, because especially as you get over here in Creve Hall, there is a creek over here, that 7 Mile Creek, that does create flooding. And so don't forget to ever be mindful of flood zones. They dramatically impact a home sale.
And Ted, would you do me a favor and
Sure.
click on just any one of those properties? Of course, red means it's closed. Green means it's active. I was just trying to see what popped up. So it's just a picture.
Well, you can click on the address and then I think it pulls up the
Google map.
Google map. You can star it. I can click on the photo and I think then it takes me to the MLS.
So again, it's just going to take us all some time to get familiar and learn. So it's going to feel clunky, but again, I was stressed when Bobby Jo said they were going to flip the switch on our old interface, but then she showed us all the good stuff, and we're just gonna have to bite the bullet and do it. I'd like to thank everybody for coming today. I'm not going to cut it off, but thank you so much. I apologize for the technology issues and appreciate everyone here, and Ted especially for taking over. Thank you so very much, and for helping make Pricing Pros better and better each time, I hope. Thanks.
This is great. Thank you so much, Rebecca. This is your doing. I'm thankful to be able to participate. And I know you'll be live and in charge next in 2 weeks. So Pricing Pros is on the first and the third Thursdays of each month. First and third Thursdays each month, 9 o'clock. And then at 10:30, which will be in 15 minutes, will be our VLab. So first and third Thursdays is VLab, 10 days marketing calendars. It'll be likely less than an hour. It'll be with Andrea. I'll be on there as well. And you will be able to, we sent out the link in the email. So if you want to pull up the templates, you will leave in less than an hour with a marketing calendar ready to rock and roll for this year.
Can I ask y'all a quick question that has nothing to do with CMAs?
Sure.
So I just had my first closing over Christmas and my client was texting me while we were on this. Thanks, I'm excited. About internet. And I don't know if y'all know anything about that, but he said that like it was been taking him 6 days to get internet with AT&T. Does AT&T, do y'all know if like that's still because of the bombing, or does AT&T not service internet to some places in Nashville?
It depends on if he's going for AT&T fiber or the regular cable.
Okay.
thing.
I just didn't know if that was something that I should be able to like offer expertise on as an agent, or if I should just be like, sorry.
I switched to AT&T this summer and it took them over a month to get my service up, just internet.
Okay. See, that's why I've always used Xfinity as much as people hate Comcast. I have AT&T on my cell phone, but
I'd say, in my opinion, one of the biggest things around that, favors you can do, is find out if Google Fiber is an option there.
okay.
To just advise, not saying Google Fiber's better, it's so much better, but say, hey, look, in your area, you can have Xfinity, AT&T, or Google Fiber. So check.
Cool. That's a good idea. Awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you guys.
You're so welcome. Yeah, there's a site there. I'll put the link to in the chat if you want.
Oh,
That you can explore if Google Fiber is available in your area. And I've had it before and it is by far the best. And then my next option is Xfinity, and then AT&T, and then just smoke signals.
amazing. Thank you so much.
As Rebecca has. In some areas, it's really good.
Yeah. Better than others.
Well, put the hotspot at the bottom. And I'm on 5G here, folks, and it's bad. So
Yeah. Here, $1. All right, y'all. We'll see you at 10:30 for marketing calendar. Have a great day. Thank you so much, Rebecca, and appreciate you working. I know you're taking care of your mom and you're in a remote location and doing all you've done to help put this together. So this was super, super helpful. All right. See y'all.